that's why I can't tell you about COINTELPRO 2.0 with Occupied, is because that hasn't happened yet, and they're never going to tell us.
That's right. So but it's also through lawsuits that a lot of these things are exposed through discovery, and I think that there's a hope that through a lot of the ongoing terrorism cases that we're dealing with now, perhaps some of these files will be dug up and there will be some light shed on all of this. And and then education. I talk to youth audiences all the time, and kids, like, just like, I was a freshman in high school. It was my first week of high school when September 11th happened in 2001. But there are people who are younger than me even that don't remember a time without the Patriot Act. Yeah. People don't remember that. Like, I have a vague memory at least. You know, I have at least some ideals and some very liberal parents. But people don't even remember what that was like and have completely accepted what's going on now as a fact, and sometimes even worse and more dangerously, as necessary.
Yes,
that's the dangerous thing. So that's what we need to get to, and we need to point to this idea. Linda said people who think that just because they have nothing to hide that they are safe, that is not true, because this is not at all a victimless crime, and we need to always emphasize that, because people need to see the effects of this on themselves and their families and the risks to their communities. And finally, just for something for us to do, just build community. That's all it is. Build community, love one another. Even if you don't like one another, love one another. Please, we're all human beings. Groups like this give me hope, because we sit in our offices and we get hate mail and death threats all day, every day. And so groups like this really give us a hope that there is a way out, that there are people left who really know the truth and who are going to fight for it. So thank you.
Okay.
Change this, right? So the first, and it just came out of the panel sitting here where we were talking about communities of color and their relationships to the 2012 election, and the dominant discourse from that was that Democrats have made everything worse for communities of color, and it's unassailably true. The surveillance regime is worse, profiling is worse. You might think that torture is better because it's stopped, but because Obama, good Freudian slip, never prosecuted anyone, it assures that it will recur. All of these issues have gotten dramatically worse since Obama came in. Fact. Next question. What do you do then if the best you've got at the federal level is perhaps the better of two evils? What do? You go locally, right? There is immense ground at the local and the state level. First thing, you guys, a lot of you blog, you write for public audiences, cover that stuff. Nobody else does, right? I'm going to tell you a quick case study. So on October 25th, the eve of the 10th anniversary of the Patriot Act, I was in Occupy Oakland. I just talked about the First Amendment at UC Berkeley that afternoon, and I spent the whole night getting chased around by the Oakland cops, tear gas, the whole night. We chased off an agent provocateur, right? A bunch of us, sort of like somebody kept throwing stuff at the cops. We figured he was an undercover plant. Either he was or wasn't, but he at least left and then stopped. The next day, pardon me, it was next week, that a coalition we organized in Berkeley, and this is another piece of locality versus federality is one important consideration. The other is diversity versus single community reforms. Linda talked about this about 45 minutes ago. When you guys write about stop and frisks, don't write about stop and frisks, write about the NYPD. These are serial abuses. The more we focus on discrete communities that are impacted, the more we shoot ourselves in the feet. The point of the struggle that draws the interests together are the institutions that oppress many communities at once, right? So turn the locus of your reporting back on the institutions and connect the dots among their serial abuses. Advocates are already doing this. In New York, this is happening. The coverage of it, it's not there, right? The advocates are doing that work to connect the dots. It's on you all, if not the mainstream media, to get the meme promoted that communities share interests in these issues. If there is to be a cultural renewal of the recognition of public value of privacy, it's going to come from you, right? But you've got to do that. And I would just say that there's tons of work happening to finish that case study, so that coalition in Berkeley, mobilizing around a whole bunch of things. They have a vote coming up later this month. It will be the nation's first proposed restriction on intelligence collection by local authorities reported diffusion centers. It's because it's very broad. It includes the NAACP and the National Lawyers Guild and the ACLU and a bunch of human rights groups and a bunch of Muslim groups. There is a particular opportunity here for nimbleness. Somebody asked about militarization. The Berkeley Police Department tried to buy a $300,000 armored personnel carrier with a DHS grant. That got challenged because there was a diverse coalition in place. Is anybody going to hear about it? I hope so, and that's really up to you.
Linda, and then we're going to...
I just wanted to end by saying that on Thursday I went to D.C. with the New York State delegation.